most beautiful words to say in sports are college football is back. Little week 0 appetizer, week 1 here coming up around the corner. Thursday gets it off. Some big games in week number 1. A big-time college football season coming for you here. So let's talk about it. Let's preview it as we do welcome here onto the show the owner of Fifth Down College Football. It is Mark Schipper. Make sure you follow Mark on Twitter at Fifth Down CFB. Mark, thank you so much here for taking the time. I think it's appropriate to ask you this. No better way to say college football's back than yesterday watching a slop fest over in Ireland, a lot of mistakes, and then afterwards finding out you have the quarterback's family fighting each other. Is that not the perfect way to welcome college football back here in 2025?
Yeah, I was bummed to see the fight in the video. It's too bad that happened over there. But the game itself, of course, that was no preseason, no inter-squad practices, and you just go out there with live fire week 1, and sometimes that's what happens. But it was mostly an entertaining game.
It was unpredictable, good finish. Iowa State gets a really good, I think, big win there for them. Go start 1-0, especially in conference, too. Both teams should be pretty good fighting for that Big 12 crown. Iowa State does get the first leg up here to start the season. Now, Mark, one of the reasons, at least for me, I mean, I love college football, so I'm excited every year, but especially this year, is I think this year is pretty wide open in terms of who can win a national title this year, in part because you see a lot of teams in the top 10 debuting first-time starters at quarterback, which, look, we've seen plenty of quarterbacks not live up to the hype that they're projected to be, so it's unpredictable. When you look at this season, just generally here, how many teams kind of look at that truly could win a national title in your mind in 2025?
Yeah, I agree with your statement. I'd actually say it's probably around 15 teams, plus or minus a few. It's a little bit like we had some years like that in the 90s and pre-BCS when there was a lot of talent spread around the country. I think now with the transfer portal, the NIL, and the way you can reshuffle these rosters every year, you don't have guys with 2 and 3 deeps that are essentially starters anywhere else in the country. So there's a lot of talent spread around, which makes for better football and a lot more uncertainty and a lot more upsets. So, yeah, I would say probably around 15 teams could legitimately upset or win their way to a championship.
Which is crazy because I feel like, especially like, let's just call it, I don't know, since like 2000, that's 25 years, like usually that number is like, I mean, I feel like if we say 5 teams, it's like crazy because Alabama had a stranglehold for a while, USC had a stranglehold for a while, Georgia as well. Like now I agree, like you're seeing a lot more talent spread out, which I think makes it more exciting. More fan bases truly can believe going into a year. It's going to be really fun. I think it's going to be really fun. I was talking to Mark Schipper of Fifth Down College Football. Check out fifthdowncfb.com to check out a lot of Mark's work. So Mark, I think it's fair to say, and if you disagree, please tell me, I think the player with the most pressure in college football in 2025 is Arch Manning because there's so much excitement to see him finally play. And I think that waiting has driven up expectations to a point where maybe he can't even reach it no matter how this year goes. But I think in terms of player pressure, Arch Manning, I would say the coach with the most pressure here in 2025 is James Franklin because I think he has the team to win a title. The biggest question is, can he actually get over the hump? Whether it's anyone else, maybe that I did not mention, but at least in terms of those two, who would you say is more pressure to succeed here in 2025? Is it Arch or is it James Franklin?
Well, between those two, I think probably James Franklin, just because he's had so long now to break through and he's had so many good teams. And he's getting to the point where he's coached long enough that the narrative around him is starting to solidify. He's the can't win the big game guy. And that's happened to very good coaches in the history of college football, and they've eventually broke through. So he can do it. But every year that goes by, it becomes a storyline that people lock onto in the offseason, during the season. They never stop asking about it. So it's, whether or not he feels that pressure, I can't say for certain. But from the outside looking in, I would say it was him. Arch has such a good support system in his family. He's a first-year starter. There's definitely major pressure on him because people are expecting him to step in and perform like one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the country. And that's a lot to ask out of a first-year full-time starter. So he's got a lot too, but Arch can always come back and give it another shot. And, he's just one guy on the field, whereas he's running the program.
Right. We're talking to Mark Schipper here of Fifth Down CFB. So, to your point, I think, the expectations for Arch have just, gone so far beyond reality. What are your expectations here for Arch in 2025, Mark?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the expectations, people naming him first team All-American and preseason SEC Player of the Year and Texas National Champions, and Arch is going to lead them there. It's fairly ludicrous, and it kind of it happened to an extent with Peyton. It didn't so much with Eli, just because he was at Ole Miss, and those expectations aren't there. So the Mannings are used to hearing that kind of stuff and getting that kind of stuff. For me personally, I think Arch is going to play well. And I think he's going to lead Texas to win. So probably have some of that Manning magic. He'll do some stuff that's memorable, but I expect him to make some mistakes too, and to look like a guy who's a first-year starter in the SEC, which is a difficult league to adjust to. So I think my expectations from him are a little bit more reasonable. He's going to need to facilitate for that team, and the other guys are going to have to carry him, which is why I'm just a touch off the Texas hype this year, I think, because they're bringing in a lot of new guys and they're replacing a lot. So, it's if Arch is going to be the guy who has to do it, it's a lot to ask out of a first-year starter.
And to your point, Mark, I don't think this is talked about enough. Texas has just 4 starters coming back on offense, and they lose 4 guys on the offensive line from one of the best O-lines in college football last year. To your, all the attention's on Arch and him as a first-year starter. There's so much new, though, around him where either guys that were starters last year, like, Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, some of their receivers, are going to be in roles now, even if they did play last year, where I think, they're going to be asked more of them this year compared to last year. New guys in the O-line, I don't think it's talked about enough that is going to impact his play directly here in 2025.
Well, I think the offensive line point that you're raising is the biggest one by far. And, you don't have to watch football for too many years before you understand is a truism that championships are won in the trenches on the offensive and the defensive lines. You need a crusher, unified, experienced offensive line, especially to get through against really sophisticated defenses. You need guys who work together, who know what they're doing, who are physically prepared, et cetera. So Texas will get those guys as ready as they can. A great coaching staff down there, a great strength training staff. They'll be ready to step in and compete. But it's one of those things where you have to do it on the field enough times to become proficient. So, yeah, the offensive line of Texas is, I would say, probably the number one concern. How good are they going to be? And that will determine how far they go.
We're talking to Mark Schipper of Fifth Down College Football. Check him out, fifthdowncfb.com. Also follow him on Twitter at fifthdowncfb for all Mark's college football content here as the season gets ready to go this week. So obviously, Mark, right, the big matchup everyone's going to talk about in week number 1. Ohio State, Texas. There at noon Eastern. Obviously, Arch makes his debut. 2 of the top teams in college football, 1 and 3, duking it out. This may sound crazy, but I'm curious your thoughts here, because the game at least I'm excited for the most in week number 1, Clemson LSU. In part because I think there's a bigger desperation between both teams. Because you kind of look at whoever loses that game, I think they're really fascinating storylines for each team, depending on how this game goes coming out of it if they lose. When you kind of look at, how do you look at the stakes of that game, LSU, Clemson in Death Valley, but, I know both teams call it that, so we'll say at Clemson here. How do you look at the stakes in terms of who wins, who loses, and kind of the fallout from that game going forward here next Saturday night?
Well, the nice thing about early season, and this was true even before the playoff and the expanded playoff, is an early season loss against a really good opponent can be overcome. So these guys will get credit for playing each other. I wish these games were week 2 for the same reasons we discussed with Kansas State, Iowa State. I'd love to have them get an easier opponent week 1 and be a little more tuned up week 2, but that's okay. They'll get it together quickly. The loser, barring a blowout, is still going to be well in contention. But it is a high-level game for both guys. I think you talk about coaching pressure. Brian Kelly, I think, has pressure on him because he was brought there to win championships and win championships quickly. Marcus Freeman has actually outperformed Brian Kelly at Notre Dame so far in the first 3 years. And I know they're getting impatient down in Baton Rouge. So Brian Kelly's got a lot of pressure, and I'll tell you, it's bad news for him because I think Dabo has one of his killer Clemson teams back this year. They're experienced all over. They have one of the best, a proven best quarterback in the sport, one of them, and a crusher defense, a lot of weapons on offense, and I think Clemson is going to be really good out of the ACC this year. So LSU better be sharp week 1 or they're going to get beaten this one. But again, they will have a chance to recover.
I cannot wait. Two really talented teams. I'm with you. I'm buying in Clemson, Mark. I did not think I would be saying that again after kind of what we've seen from the last few years with Clemson. I think for me, at least, their slide in this kind of modern era of college football compared to what we saw in 2016, 17, 18, et cetera. But Dabo's got him back. And yeah, I'm with you. I think his team is absolutely legit. One of the best teams in the country. It's going to be so much fun in Clemson next Saturday night. We're talking to Mark Schipper of Fifth Down College Football. Let's finish here, Mark. Is there a team you're looking at here going to the season that's maybe not getting enough love as you think they should, that could surprise people? Maybe not even, to win a national title, but maybe make the playoff or maybe be in just a playoff contention or spot to compete for a playoff spot. Is there a team maybe getting slept on here as we get set for football to kick off this week that's not getting as much love as you think they should?
Yeah, there are always a few around. It's hard to settle on one. I think one, and people are going to call me crazy for saying this because it's been a losing bet for so long. But I actually think for once, Texas A&M is being underhyped. Okay. Mike Elgar, the coach they brought in there, is a legitimate coach, a legitimate program builder. He's a defensive guy. The money's the same at A&M. They can get the same players in there, but they got a guy with a really structured program. So I think Texas A&M is at minimum more dangerous than they have been under, say, sort of lazy Jimbo Fisher and, the guys who came before. So A&M, and then, out of the ACC, an interesting team to me is two of them, Georgia Tech and Louisville. Both those schools are flying a little bit under the radar, and they're not, it's not like elite rosters and definite big hitters, but they've got good talent, good coaching, good experience. And they just they're capable of kind of beating anybody if the opponent is not sharp that week. So those are some of my teams I'd say have an opportunity to make some noises here.
Make sure you check out Mark, fifthdowncfb.com on Twitter. Make sure you follow him at fifthdowncfb. College football is back, kicking into high gear this week. Mark, thank you so much for the time here and previewing the season. Very excited for college football to get going here. Looking forward to chatting again.
My pleasure, Ryan. Thanks for having me on.